We're in Mountain View, California, and with me is Michael Ray with the Sens Research Foundation. A real pleasure to have you on the show.
And you.
And joining us, utilizing technology from the other side of the country, we have Bill Faloon, the founder of Life Extension, right with us. Bill, are you with us? Can you hear us?
I am here, Richard.
Great. So we are here to discuss the latest in your fields of interest and research.
Good. Well, we have lots going on, and the whole field is moving forward pretty rapidly these days, so it's a good time.
Well, what the Life Extension Group, which comprises of a large number of different entities, we're doing some of the work that Sens is doing and translating that where we can into human studies. And we look forward to every major announcement, and Sens does so much fantastic publication of potential mechanisms involved in aging and how to circumvent them. That's why we encourage a lot of our supporters to, contribute money to Sens. They're a charity. It's all tax deductible, and you're accelerating biomedical research when you write those kind of checks. But if people want to appreciate what's going on, there are human studies now where we're seeing certain aspects of aging going in reverse. And if it wasn't for that animal data, even in vitro research, meaning test tube type petri dish studies, well, we wouldn't know to investigate those types of interventions into aging human study subjects.
Yeah. If you can't prove that something is going to work out in an animal model, there's no sense putting it in people. It's just random molecule injections, which is not anyone's productive use of their time.
Right. We need to validate safety, certainly in the animal model, and what kind of efficacy is occurring. And we're seeing great examples of what's occurring with senolytics. These are compounds that selectively remove senescent cells. And when they give senolytic compounds to rodents, they become younger in a systemic manner.
Yeah.
And there are 2 studies right now that we are aware of in which senolytics were clinically tested in people, and we saw some very nice results in both those studies, still very preliminary, but I believe within the next year or 2 we're going to see a lot of human data on senolytics, and we're going to see some nice reversals of aging and some resolutions of chronic degenerative conditions. And this spans a wide spectrum: heart failure, pulmonary fibrosis, perhaps cognitive decline, early stage Alzheimer's. We're seeing a broad spectrum benefit when people take steps to neutralize the senescent cell burden in their bodies.
Yeah. The rodent work on senolytics has really been a game changer. I think people like you and I and Life Extension supporters have understood for decades that intervention in aging is really the most powerful way to keep people young and healthy into the future. And the proof of concept provided by senolytics, particularly as a damage repair approach, has really woken up the entire biomedical community to say there's something really going on here. It's very exciting, and the human trials are very exciting as well.
Well, there are these 7 discoveries that are documented on your website. Mm-hmm. Share with our audience what they are.
So we're focused on the actual molecular damage that accumulates in the body over time that leads to dysfunction of tissues and thereby both age-related disease and the general decline in health that you see with aging. Broadly speaking, that can be broken down to 7 categories. So we have mitochondrial mutations that is specifically focused on large deletions, which are the kind of mitochondrial mutation that accumulates universally in cells. We have nuclear DNA damage. The most important effect of that is cancer. It's somewhat ambiguous what other effects nuclear DNA damage might have. There are damaged proteins that are not cleared by our native machinery out of the inside of cells. These are things like lipofuscin and intercellular tau aggregates that are involved in Alzheimer's disease. There are damaged proteins that accumulate outside the cells. Again, in Alzheimer's disease, you see beta amyloid. There's another damaged protein called transthyretin, which accumulates in the heart and is actually responsible for a large fraction of a particular variant of heart failure that is very, very difficult to treat otherwise. There is also senescent cells, we were talking about a moment ago. We were one of the first people to really push the idea of not trying to slow down the rate at which cells go senescent, but rather actually removing those cells from aging tissues. And as Bill was saying, that's showing really dramatic results in rodents, and at least so far is showing potential for human translation as well.
But getting the message out to the public is also very essential. And I brought you a copy of Life Extension magazine. In fact, the cover story here is New Life-Saving Data on Vitamin K. So 300,000 copies of this magazine or more are going out to people, and the more the information is made known to the public, the better it is, and of course, the greater the support you'll be getting in your research.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, public awareness of, there's so many people that I speak to every day that really haven't even gotten the message yet that aging as such is a medical condition that can be treated. They still regard it as absolutely inevitable. And until you break through that consciousness and get people to realize that aging is not just something that happens and it's not just benign, that the reason why we get cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, the reasons why those happen in old people and not young people is because of a biological process that we can intervene in biomedically.
What's your thoughts on that, Bill?
Well, we're already demonstrating, and I say we, the scientific community, is publishing data that is irrefutable, that people have a tremendous degree of control as to how fast they degenerate. In other words, how quickly do they develop the age-related disease burden? And when Life Extension started publishing in 1980, we advocated for a number of these different healthy lifestyle choices, and we were somewhat ridiculed back in those days because people said aging just happens. There's nothing you can really do to slow it or accelerate it. And of course, that's now been totally disproven. If you want to age faster, you can do that. You can eat a lot of excess calories. You can just stay so dormant with your physical activity that you develop all kind of atrophies. Your AMPK levels, unfortunately, decrease. All kind of horrible things happen when you don't take care of yourself. And you can either accelerate aging or slow it down with normal, healthy lifestyle behavior patterns that we already know about. And what we're doing at Life Extension is advocating somewhat more aggressive approaches, one being a prescription drug called metformin. It's used by diabetics. It's the #1 prescribed drug to treat type 2 diabetes, but it also has profound anti-aging properties. It boosts an enzyme in the cells called AMPK, and in doing so, it confers a wide range of benefits, including a probable reduction in the risk of cancer. And if you happen to have cancer, there's tremendous data that adding metformin to conventional treatment is going to improve your survival, improve your odds of achieving a complete response. This is a drug that's been around for decades, and yet it's virtually overlooked by everyone who doesn't pay attention to what groups like Sens and Life Extension has been publishing for, metformin we recommended back in 1995.
Amazing.
We are 24 years out, and the American public is not aware of metformin other than people who read Life Extension magazine or subscribe to the Sens reports. So there's a lot that can be done that's rather simple and inexpensive and yet overlooked.
On this point, I'd like us just to take a break. We have to go for these commercial messages, and we'll be right back.
Life Extension magazine brings you new discoveries in health and anti-aging. Our science-based research and supplements are so advanced they're many years ahead of the medical mainstream, with quality control standards that exceed FDA mandates. Life Extension has covered groundbreaking medical research for more than 35 years. For your health and future, you deserve the best. Learn more at lifeextension.com.
We're back with Michael Ray, and joining us from Boca Raton, Florida, is Bill Faloon. Gentlemen, let's continue. What actually is new right now? Things are changing so rapidly. What's happening right now?
So one of the projects that we are rapidly progressing on is a project on atherosclerosis. This is the fatty lesions that accumulate in your arteries that lead to heart attack and stroke and renal failure and a wide variety of other problems. Now, most people will have heard of what's sometimes called the bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, and that is the ultimate molecular driver of aging. But what most people don't know is that in order to really get the disease process started, those molecules of LDL cholesterol have to be oxidized. And there's a particular form of oxidized cholesterol called 7-ketocholesterol that the evidence strongly suggests is really the most important for causing the abnormal cellular changes that drive atherosclerosis. We've made a lot of progress with that disease in the last 30 years, and this is what is going to boot it to the next generation. We can really start reversing that disease even at more advanced stages.
Bill, I wanted to ask you to share with our audience about biotechnological rejuvenation.
Well, to add further to what Michael said about the absolute epidemic of occlusive arterial disease or atherosclerosis, it's a problem that's actually been deferred in typical people nowadays. Instead of having heart attacks at 50, which back in the 1960s was very common. You'd have a heart attack, you might survive, you might die, and they didn't really understand how to protect against it. Well, they've reduced the ability of cholesterol, LDL, to cause midlife heart attacks, and they've postponed it into older populations. So our life extension group, we're seeing people who've done really well up until a certain age of 78 or 85, and all of a sudden there's like accelerated atherosclerosis occurring. And this is caused by a number of underlying factors. But if we can get a handle on what Michael was talking about, we could literally keep people from ever having to worry about their coronary arteries becoming blocked or arteries throughout their body that they narrow in such a way that people suffer circulatory deficits. So this is, those circulatory deficits, by the way, are a major contributor to Alzheimer's disease. And that's recent information. We published it in our magazine to indicate when you take care of your heart, maintain healthy blood flow to your heart, you get benefits to your brain too. So we're seeing a continuing surge of validation that we want to find a way to prevent and or reverse atherosclerotic lesions in our arteries.
That point about the connection between cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease is really important. I think there's been too much of a focus for the history of medicine up until recently on the idea that cardiovascular disease or cancer or Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, all these things are separate diseases that exist in their own silos, and if we just attack them individually, we would be able to keep people alive, and we're running up against the limits of that kind of model. The problem is all those processes are driven by the underlying process of biological aging. The real approach we need to move to, and that we're working on at Sens Research Foundation, is to attack the aging process itself, the cellular and molecular changes that occur in your body with time that drive the falling apart of tissue function across the body, and that makes all these diseases closely interlinked in a way that is not obvious when you just think about them as isolated diseases that you can conquer the way you conquer a bacterial infection, for instance.
Bill, share with us a little bit about the big foundations, the big organizations, billionaires who are supporting this kind of research today.
Well, the good news, Richard, is that some of the most famous billionaires, multi-billionaires of our day, be it Jeff Bezos with Amazon, the Google founders, Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal, many, many billionaires are putting significant dollars into aging research. This is great news. Problem is, it's not their number one priority. It's more like a hobby, like their ways of changing technology with computer software that built their business empires. They're approaching aging research that way, and we appreciate it. But the difference between these billionaires and what Sens and Life Extension are doing is we view this as a life or death proposition. If we can accelerate the research, we get to live. If we fail, we die. So we are putting this as the number one priority in everything we do. So when we have research dollars sent our way, we put it to use in a way that accelerates the pace of the research. as opposed to someone who has a good curiosity and they're putting some decent money into it. Well, they may be 9-10 years away from anything that's going to work. We're looking to try to improve the ability to keep people young in the next 6 to 12 months in major ways. So we appreciate the billionaires recognizing aging is a problem, writing $100 million checks and more. That's fantastic. We encourage it, but we also want to accelerate it at our pace, which is fast.
Your thoughts, Michael?
I would just say that I wish we had a lot more of those billionaires getting on the bandwagon, and also more people that are middle class. You know, every small, medium donation, the more people we have supporting research designed to intervene in aging, the more progress we can make. We shouldn't leave it to the billionaires for sure. We need everybody who wants to live, wants their loved ones to live, to stay young, to stay healthy, you know, to get fully on board with this research.
Yeah, when you consider where people do donate money, they're all worthy causes, but we're talking about taking care of a problem, i.e. degenerative aging, that's going to impact everybody, and sometimes at a younger age. I mean, people can have accelerated atherosclerosis, they can have early life malignancies, and it's all related to aging. Women under age 25 almost never get breast cancer. By the time they reach 30, their odds of getting it are a lot higher, and with each 5-year increment, the rate of breast cancer incrementally increases to frighteningly high levels. And so I'd like to think that people will recognize the value of what's being done to circumvent aging as something important to virtually anyone over age 25.
Yeah, and everyone who's over age 25, of course, is going to be 65, 75, 85 someday. It's a question of identifying yourself now with the person you're going to be in the future.
Yes, very well stated.
Very interesting point. What final message would you like to share with our audience at this time, Michael?
I would like to share with the audience that everyone is going to age, that it's a priority for everyone to intervene in that process, that the research is showing a lot of potential, and that we're all got to be working towards new interventions that are going to tackle that the way we tackled diseases in the past.
Absolutely. And Bill, what would you add to that?
Well, the great news is we've been involved with clinical trials, meaning trials where we test the ability of a particular intervention, be it NAD restoration, the senolytic therapies, a number of different approaches to controlling biological aging. And most of these studies, they're kind of proof of concept, small trials. They're showing remarkable degrees of efficacy, and we're not seeing any types of side effects occurring in these people that would worry anybody. So a lot of the people who support us, they're now undergoing these treatments. There's doctors around the countries right now that we refer people to who are administering NAD infusions, prescribing senolytic drugs, prescribing metformin for its anti-aging potential. So there are probably thousands of Americans right now engaged in a program to slow biological aging that goes way beyond just living a healthy lifestyle. And that is incredible news because we collect data on these people to see how well each therapy is working or each combination of therapies is working.
Michael, for all of our viewers and individuals who'd like to learn more about Sens Foundation, how can they reach you?
So if you go to our website at www.sens.org, that's S-E-N as in Nancy, S.org, there you can find both our contact email and our donation page to give us support and see both the approach we're taking to conquering aging and the specific research projects that we are doing in Mountain View and also funding in universities all across the country.
And Bill, remind our viewers how they can sign up for Life Extension Magazine.
They can call anytime, 24 hours a day, 1-800-544-4440. Just ask the operator for a complimentary subscription. We typically give them a 6-month trial, and if they like it, they can continue. No charge whatsoever. It's easy to do. And they can also, of course, log on to our website, lifeextension.com, and see what we're doing. A lot of what the Life Extension website talks about are what people are currently doing when it comes to dietary supplements to help circumvent some aspects of aging. And for those who want to be more aggressive, well, there's a private association that we set up called the Age Reversal Network. And that website is age-reversal.net. And that's for people who want to self-experiment or find a physician who will prescribe them these various potentially rejuvenating therapies. I say potentially, we've already shown them working, but we haven't shown them working in enough people to achieve the kind of statistical significance that so many people in the scientific community require. So those are different options for people who want to take advantage of knowledge out there that I'd like to think, synthesize in a way to make it comprehensible and also practical.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Bill and Michael, for the information. We have to do this again sometime soon.
Indeed.
I'll be right back.
Very good.